that today is the 20th day of the month of Kislev, which Jews around the world, specifically Chabad Hasidim around the world, are celebrating the liberation of the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya, from Tsarist prison.
Excuse me, Rabbi, could we do today's class in memory of Rabbi Raitchik?
Yes, sure, yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, today, a great rabbi in California, his name is Rabbi Shimon Raitchik, passed away. And so today's class is dedicated to his memory. And about 230 some years ago, the author of the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe, was arrested on false charges of sending money to the Turkish government, who is the enemy of the Tsar. He was sending money true to the land of Israel, where the Turks ruled the land of Israel, but he was sending it essentially to the Jewish community there. And there were those that did not like the Alter Rebbe, and they said that he's sending it to the Turkish government. Now, why did they not like the Alter Rebbe? And that's what we're going to discuss a little bit today. And this leads to the subject of what we are talking about, the entire book of the Tanya, what the Alter Rebbe wrote. You see, 230 years ago. You see, this book is a revolutionary book. This book is based on principles of the Torah. This book is culled from the great sages up until the Alter Rebbe. Their teachings, there's nothing new. However, the Alter Rebbe compiled it in such a manner that it completely revolutionized the way a Jew understands Judaism and the way a Jew relates to God and the way we relate to each other and the way we relate to the world that we live in. When the Alter Rebbe sent a draft of the book to his mechutin, to his in-laws, Rabbi Lev Yitzchak of Berditchev, he looked at it and he says, wow, he put so much wisdom into such a small book. Because the Tanya was originally printed in very small books, almost pocket-sized books. And so, I'm looking, so I know I have a small copy somewhere of a sample of the size of right here. Here. Here's one printing of the Tanya, here's another printing of the Tanya. You see the tiny little books, right? And he said, how can you put so much wisdom into such a small book? It was printed like this. First of all, it saves money on the paper. Those days is very expensive. But plus, it was easy to carry it around. Jews are traveling from place to place. They can keep it in their pocket and then pull it out and learn it when they needed to. Now, what was he really saying? Was he just simply saying that physically it was a small book? What he was saying is that the Alter Rebbe gave each and every one of us the opportunity to hold God in our hands. That Judaism is not some kind of far-off idea, nice concept that is out there, unrelatable to us. But he's saying the whole idea of Judaism is that it attains and it applies to our daily activity. And he was able to take these deep, profound concepts and apply it to our daily life. Similar to the article you sent me the other day, by taking Judaism, which can seem to be sometimes abstract, and make it more concrete and relatable. So Alter Rebbe took this idea of the prophets, the writings, the verses in the Torah, and he applied it in a very concise, systematic way that we can relate to, we can understand it. And he did this in a manner of first explaining to us what is our essential character, and that is not our nose, our body, that is our soul that is inside of us. And then he explained about the soul powers and he further explained the garments of the soul. And now he is explaining the actions and how we conduct ourselves in our daily life. The Alter Rebbe was actually freed from prison on the 19th day of Kislev. When he was in prison, he asked his teachers that perhaps I should not be teaching these concepts in such a relatable manner. Maybe it's reserved for the great sages as it was until his generation. Only the learned would study this deep concepts, and it maybe wasn't the time for everybody to study such deep ideas. And so his teacher said, to the contrary, you absolutely should be teaching it now, because now the world is ready for it, and the world needs to hear you. Okay. So what the Alter Rebbe was saying is that the Tanya that we have, when he came out of prison, not only did he not stop teaching it, but he started to teach it much more. And although he was freed on the 19th day of Kislev, which was yesterday, we celebrated yesterday and today, because today was the day he actually finally came home and he began to instruct his students and instruct his family to begin to spread and disseminate the teachings of Chassidus. Now let's delve into chapter number 7, where we are holding. You see, many times in life, we can hear someone sing a specific song or play a specific piece of music, and it could evoke a certain memory or a certain feeling within us. But that same piece of music may not only not inspire someone else, but it may actually lead another person to a negative action. Okay? For a simple example, many of us like classical music, but did you know that the worst human beings since creation, the Nazis, Yamach Shema, may the names be obliterated, also loved classical music, right? They would sit and ask people to play classical music. The same music that inspires one person only motivated another person to do these horrible atrocities and to go out and murder and kill senselessly and just hurt people, right? So we see that the same action can have two opposite outcomes. And this basically leads us to this idea of what our subject matter is. And that the reason how this can be is because sometimes something so profound, so good is revealed, and sometimes it is hidden. What does that mean? I'm sure we've all played the game of hide and seek. The game of hide and seek goes that somebody hides and another person is it, and they have to go and find the person that is hiding. Unfortunately, sometimes what happens is that you can play the game of hide and seek, and one person is playing or is hiding so well that the people that are, or the person that is it, that is looking for them, stops looking for them. They give up, especially when you're dealing with kids. They get sidetracked. Maybe the ice cream truck came or who knows what, and they ran away. And meantime, this kid is hiding and no one's looking for them. And this actually happened with, the story is told of Rabbi Avram the Malach, Rabbi Avram the angel, this very holy individual, the son of the Mazitra Maggid, who was also a colleague of the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya. And he once came crying to his father, and he said, "Dad, I'm sitting here and playing the game hide and seek." And his father said, "So why are you crying? That's a fun game. Kids play it all the time. We were kids, we played it." He says, "No, you don't understand. I went to hide, and my friends stopped looking for me. That's why I'm crying." So he turned up to heaven. He says, "God, you're hiding from us. We don't see God's revelation in this world. You're hiding from us so much that unfortunately your children stop looking for you. Maybe it's time to come out of the hiding place." You see, the sun that shines is always illuminating the world. It's always shining. Now, the sun impacts us in several ways, okay? The first way is the direct sunlight. The sun is shining, we get the light of the sun. Then you have also the way the sun shines in a reflective manner. You're not getting the direct sunlight, but the sun is hitting off of a wall or and impacting you. Or, for example, we know that it can be a freezing cold day, a snowy day, and you're skiing on the mountain. Somehow you can get a sunburn, right? How does that happen? Because the sun is reflecting off of the snow on the ground, and it could hit you and burn your face or give you a suntan if you're lucky. So the sun is not directly impacting you or hitting you. It is through a reflection. You could also have the sun could be shining, and you can have an obstacle that is not allowing the sun to shine through. Okay? So you have the sun that may be hitting this and then reflecting upon you. Then you have the sun that's hitting this and it's not going through. There's an obstacle in between the sun and you. What is on the other side of this obstacle, of this division? Darkness, right? You don't see the sun. Does that mean that the sun is not shining? No, the sun is certainly shining. It only means that I don't benefit from the reflection of the sun. Okay? Then you also have the sun is shining, then you have a cover over the sun that is not letting the sun shine through. And this is the idea that we're going to discuss today, these three ideas: reflection, obstruction, and shell or husk. I'm going to say it in the three Hebrew terms that the Alter Rebbe uses because it's very important for our discussion. The first one is li'umazah, which we spoke about last week. To every side, you have the flip side, you have the other side. Okay? The other side is really simply a reflection of God. You're getting the light. It's completely getting the light, but it's not a direct impact. It is the other side. Okay? Then you have, not the other side. It is lu'umazah. It is the opposite, the reflection of it. Then you have the sitra acher, which means the other side. The other side is you have this side, which is getting the direct light, and then the other side, which is not getting any light. So the umazah means the other side, the reflective side. Sitra acher means the other side. Okay? You're not getting any direct light. And then you have what is called klipa, which is the shell or the husk that is covering over the light. So when we talk about God, the Kabbalists use the term light to describe how God relates to us. Okay? So we're going to use that analogy of light to talk about God. But first, I'm going to use it in the terms of God, then I'll switch to the terms of light. God has a direct relationship with us. That's best case scenario. Second to the best case scenario, God is reflecting. We have a relationship with God in a reflective manner, not a direct manner, but it's a reflection off of something else. The third option is that we have a relationship with God from the other side. God is shining his light, but we're not getting the light directly. It's there somewhere, but not on me, not even in a reflective manner. And then you have the fourth manner that there's a wall that is between, or a covering that's between me and God. Let's go now to the light analogy because it'll help us understand. We all appreciate the light that is overhead. Sometimes we don't get the direct light, we get only a reflective light. Sometimes we don't even get that, we're sitting in darkness. The light is shining, but we're just something that is covering over, blocking the light from shining, even in a reflective manner. And then you have the light that is hidden within this shell called a klipa, the covering. What does this all have to do with us? Very simple. When we talk about God's light, we are talking about us experiencing holiness in the most profound manner. We feel we are getting this spiritual energy that is completely invigorating us and empowering us. Sometimes we experience this energy, this light of God, but it's only in a reflective manner. It's kind of there. We feel it, but it's not really exciting us. We're not like jumping for joy. We know it's there. We feel the energy, but it just has its limiting powers. And then you have not only the fact that we are not motivated by God, we actually don't even see the light of God. It seems to be unholy, or more precise, not holy. There's a difference between that which is unholy and that which is not holy. Okay? Unholy means perhaps the opposite of holy. Not holy means it's just simply not holy. It's not holy, it's not holy. Right? It's not holy. It's not the opposite of holiness. It's just not holy. Okay? If this may sound a little abstract, let's try to delve into the current subject, which may be more applicable. Okay? Let's say you sit down this afternoon to eat a lunch, to eat a meal of lunch, okay? You can have a nice lunch, make a toast, whatever you can eat for lunch, okay? Egg, whatever it is. Did you do anything wrong? No, it's a good thing. Provided that you bought the food with kosher money, in other words, you had earned a good living or out of it through a decent profession. You didn't steal it, you didn't rob, you didn't get it in a unkosher manner. Okay, you got the money in a kosher manner, you bought kosher food, and you sat down to eat the lunch. There's nothing wrong with that. Very nice, eating lunch. Is there anything holy about that though? No. Is it not holy? It's not holy. It's not unholy. But is it holy? Not necessarily. So excuse me, it is not holy. It's not necessary. It's not unholy, but it's not holy, right? But what good did you accomplish by doing this? If you think about it, it may be a simple act of indulgence. That you can say it's not enough. I was hungry. My stomach is growling. I had to eat. And now I have energy. Okay, it's very nice. However, we can take that same meal and utilize it for a holy purpose. So up until now, it was not holy. We could actually make it holy by us eating the meal and utilizing the energy to fulfill a mitzvah, a godly desire, to study Torah. We now took that food and elevated it to a holy purpose. If you meet somebody, okay, you have a nice conversation. That's very nice. Beautiful. You went out to coffee and you had a nice conversation. But if you took that meeting with somebody and you utilized it for something good, now you've taken that same meeting, the same words that you used, and you've elevated that meaning for a godly purpose. We brought meaning into that encounter. We left that encounter a more motivated, positive, and holy person. So we took that which was not holy and made it holy. A simple act of utilizing that get together for a meaningful, purposeful role. And that is exactly what the Alter Rebbe is saying. That we have the power to take that concept and simply transform it to something holy. So let's look inside the chapter 7 now. This, ooh. This one. Want to open the chapter 7 in the book?
Page 113.
Oh, I don't know how to do this. Provided that him with physical life, as stated above. So we've been discussing the reflective light, the obstruction, and now we're talking about this husk that is covering over the shell. There are 4 degrees of klippa, shells, okay? 3 of them are called 3 unholy klippos, and 1 is neutral. Today we're going to discuss the neutral. The 3 unholy klippos, we do not have any power to transform, to elevate, or to change. We don't have the ability to do that, okay? It's not in our hands. This has been completely tied down, and this is why we do not even engage in it. However, most things are neutral, and it's up to us to engage in it and transform it and elevate it. Now, I must note, why are we talking about this? It may seem to be some unrelatable concept, but the truth is, as we're going to see in a moment, this very much applies to us in our daily life. The question is, what kind of life do I want to live? Do I want to live a life that is just running after my tail, or every day is another day just the same as yesterday? Or do I want today to be much different than yesterday? I want it to be filled with meaning, filled with some spirit of energy, some direction or holiness. Alter Rebbe says we have the power to take our daily activities and utilize it for an uplifting manner, in an uplifting manner. Make it holy. So we have like this. Imagine you have a almond, okay? The almond comes in a shell, right? You break the shell. What do you do with the outside shell of the almond? Throw it out. It has no use, okay? That is the shalosh klippas hatmeis, the unholy klippas. There's no use at this moment for those shells. There's no value. You can't replant it in the ground. It's not going to produce any more almonds. Basically, you throw it out, okay? It's not a perfect example because in theory, you can take those shells, make a nice, inspiring art piece for it or whatever. But the point is that it has no value, meaning in that it cannot create anything new, okay? Then you have another shell. Not only doesn't either give you any energy, you can't eat it. But the almond has another shell. That is the little brown coating over the actual almond, okay? This is also a shell. It's a protective coating over the almond. Does that have no use? Like the outer shell? No, that does have a use. So sometimes you have an outer shell that has no use, but you have a shell inside of that that is also considered a shell, also a cover over the actual thing that we're going to eat, but that has a potential use. We can either peel it and throw it out. When you're making almond milk, you want to get rid of those, even that shell, otherwise it's going to make the milk look too dark, right? Or you're going to keep it on and you're going to eat it, then it's going to give you an extra degree of vitamins that the almonds itself don't have, but this cover does have, okay? So we see there's different types of shells. When we talk about, this is why we talk about coverings. Not all coverings are equal. Some are completely useless and some are potentially useful. The food that we eat falls into the category of potentially useful coverings. Again, what does this all have to do? It all has to do with one simple fact. How are we, and how does this relate to God? How are we going to reveal God in this world? How are we going to have a relationship with God? Now, one may ask, why do I want a relationship with God? What's the point? But the answer is simple, is because by us entering in a relationship with God, we attribute to ourselves a power that we cannot find within us on our own. Meaning to say, we are attaching, just like if you want to be successful, you want to hang out with a successful person, that will make you more successful also. So if you want to be a good sports player, if you want to be a good tennis player, you don't want to play against a mediocre tennis player. You want to play against an excellent tennis player. That'll only make you into a better tennis player. Okay? If you want to be a good boxer, you want to fight against someone that is better than you, because that'll make you even better. You don't want to fight against someone that is less than you. Are you going to win? Yeah, you'll win every time, but you haven't become a better fighter, a better person. So when we attach ourselves to Hashem, we are essentially attaching ourselves to the infinite. This is why we become so much greater than we were beforehand. We don't want to settle with someone that is less than us. We want to go for God himself. And so when we think about the world that Hashem creates, we say, okay, we don't want to hang out with the unholy shell. There's no purpose in it, no gain. Even the Klippas Naiga, if we're going to engage in it, which we have to engage in it, at least let me utilize it for something holy. Okay? And this way, attaching it, not pulling God down into the gutter, so to speak, but lifting God up even to a higher level. So we take that, which is not holy, and we make it holy. That which is unholy, we discard, we throw it out. What does that do? That takes us from that which was not holy and making it holy. What does that mean? We now become present. I'm here right now. I'm fully engaged. When I do something that is not holy, again, not unholy, but not holy, I am seeking something, or I have not yet completed that thing. If I'm eating, again, Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, eating a lunch, okay, I've done nothing. But I have not completed that task. I've eaten the food without elevating it. But when I utilize it, or the energy, for something godly, I've now completed the task. That makes me present. I've arrived, so to speak. The crazy thing, though, is that when we arrive, we say, this is fantastic. But because we've tasted the beauty, we want even more. So we're never satisfied. We arrive, but we want to continue to go from level to level to level. But at least I'm present. I'm firmly on the ground. Okay? So now let's continue inside. So to the existence of, and the animal and the souls of the animals, beasts, birds, fish, which are pure according to the laws of the Torah, and are thus permitted for a Jewish consumption, as also the existence and vitality of everything in the inanimate and the vegetable world that is permissible for consumption, so to the existence and vitality of every act, utterance, and thought in mundane matters that contain no forbidden aspect. It's nothing forbidden. It's not bad. Being neither root nor branch of the 365 prohibited precepts and their offshoots, prohibited either in the explicit authority of the Torah or by rabbinic enactments. In other words, we're not doing anything wrong with it, we're not utilizing for a bad purpose. Yet, when these permitted thoughts, utterances, or acts are not performed for the sake of heaven as they ought to be, instead, We're skipping the small words, going to continue. Instead, they serve only the will, desire, and lust of the body, even where it is a need of the body and necessary for its very preservation of life, such as eating, which the body requires for its very existence, and without which it cannot possibly live. Thus, the act itself cannot be faulted, but the fault lies in that his intention is not for the sake of heaven, to utilize his body as an instrument in the service of God. Is it wrong to watch a movie? Is it wrong to watch a sports game or to go to a sports game? Of course not. There's nothing wrong with it. Is it holy? No. Is it unholy? Also not. Now, as we will see in a moment, what the Alter Rebbe is going to suggest is that we have such a limited amount of time in this world. I want to try to utilize every action, every moment, every discussion, every meeting, every encounter, everything that I do. I want to utilize it for a holy purpose. Now, one can counter, easier said than done. Very nice, right? To say that, but let's be real over here. You know, sometimes I'm simply hungry. I'm not thinking about all the spiritual benefits of eating. I just want to eat that sandwich. That's it. And that's true. However, what we could do is later on, we can say, oh, remember that sandwich I had? Let me do something positive with the energy that I still have inside of me from that sandwich. So maybe at that moment, I'm not feeling it, but later on, I can feel it. You know, I went to the supermarket and I had a encounter with someone. I'm going to use that encounter as motivating me to do something better or to pay it forward or whatever it is. So that other act that I did that was perhaps not a holy, now I'm doing it for holiness. See that? This is why the Alter Rebbe says, so when I did that, nothing wrong to eat, but it was not for the intention for the sake of heaven. If this spiritual intent is absent, then all these acts, utterances, and thoughts are no better than the vitalizing animal soul itself. You're hungry eating lunch, you know, that critter on the side of the road eating its munching on whatever it's munching on is exactly like you. It's also hungry. Your dog that is eating is also just hungry. Why are you any different than that animal that is dropping some pieces of bread into the ocean, waiting for the dog, for the cat, waiting for the fish to come up to the top and eat it, then it's going to come down and grab that fish, right? All that it's doing, it wants to eat its lunch. It's hungry. That's it. So it has a few tricks up its sleeve and how it's going to get its lunch. But we're doing the same thing. And everything in this totality of things, the soul with its actions, utterances, and thoughts flows and is drawn from the second gradation of klippos in Sitracha, which is in the progressively ascending order of klippos, the fourth klippa called klippas noiga, the klippa that shines. For within this klippa, there is yet found a ray of holiness. What is this that we're talking about up until now? This neutral klippa, right? That it's not holy, but it's not unholy. We're not talking about the three unclean klippos. It's not holy klippa. It is called a klippa that shines. You know why it's called something that shines? Because in it has the potential to shine. It's amazing. We have the ability to take that which was not pristinely holy and reveal what is hidden in it. And in fact, today, celebrating the redemption of the Alter Rebbe, the 20th day of Kislev, we are focusing on this idea. What did the Alter Rebbe teach us? As we see here, we have the power to take the material of this world, the materialism, the physical, mundane, tangible world, and elevate it to a degree of holiness. How do we do that? By unearthing the holiness that is already inside of it. We're not making anything new. We're simply revealing that which is already there and bringing it to light. For this, what will continue is called the world of Asiyah, the world of action. Indeed, almost all of the Klippas Nega is evil with only a little good intermingled with it. However, don't think that it's easy to do. The Alter Rebbe says you should know that this is evil. Now, it's very important to mention this idea. We've been discussing that the entire world is filled with God's light. Some of it is direct light, some reflective light, some is obscured light. Sometimes something is so distant from God's light, so obscured that it seems to be evil. That's how far it is from God. That's how much we don't see godliness. Okay. And from this minute amount of good, yet there is a little bit of light, but it's so small, so tiny, so minute. But from there comes the good qualities which are found in the animal soul of the Jew, as is explained above. But from there, we have the power to tap into it and to reveal it. Unbelievable. And here the Alter Rebbe continues. Now the klippa snega, this shining klippa, which is a shell, but it's a shell that shines because we have the power to reveal the goodness inside of it, is an intermediate category between three unclean klippas, that which is completely unholy, and the category and order of sanctity, that which is holy. Hence, it is sometimes absorbed within the three unclean klippas. Sometimes it's drawn down, right? We take that music, that cultured music, and we use it for something as profane, as corrupt, as horrific as some people use it, or we use it for something holy. We can ascend and to be absorbed in sanctity. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to give an example. For example, if one eats fat beef and drinks spiced wine, not only out of physical desire, but in order to broaden his mind for the service of God and for his Torah. As we see, the sage Rava drank wine and fragrance, made my mind more receptive, he said, that this good wine, this aged wine, was so desirable, so delicious. The smell was so good, the taste was so good, that it opened up my mind to serve God. And he says this was all used in order to fulfill the commandment to enjoy the Sabbath and the festivals. Or if we use this good wine or this delicious meat in order to serve or to celebrate Shabbos or the holidays in a more uplifting manner, then the vitality of the meat and the wine, which originated in the klippas nega, is then extracted from the evil and ascends to God like a burnt offering and sacrifice. Or if one makes a joke, cracks a joke, and he uses that again to sharpen his mind, to make his heart rejoice in God, right, for his Torah service, then again, he's taking that comedic gesture in order to be vitalized and to serve for God. Now, why does he use this example of meat and wine? Very simple. Because we human beings have the tendency that when we engage in something that we enjoy, we end up overindulging in it. We're not content with one portion, we want a second portion. We want a bigger steak, a juicier steak. Not a quarter-pound steak, we want a half-pound steak. We're not content with a burger, we want a good solid piece of meat, right? This is obviously an example, but the point is that when we take something that we enjoy, we tend to want more of it. In other words, it has the potential to draw us further down in our self-indulgence. But we also can take that and have that power to pull us out of the gutter and elevate us to a higher level. That's what the Alter Rebbe is saying. And with that, we will conclude today's lesson. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that's always the challenge.